Stephen, investing in healthcare equities has the potential to protect our wealth against inflation and the market volatility. Actually, post-COVID, innovation also emerged. May you highlight a few interesting investment opportunities in healthcare subsectors?
Sure. Let me start, Miranda, if I could, with biopharmaceutical companies. We continue to look in that space at certain disease states where we've always looked, things like cancer, oncology, things like orphan and rare diseases. But as your question frames, there is a concern now coming out of COVID that we have elevated risks in diseases like diabetes, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular diseases. So we are allocating more capital to certain of those markets where we found these research studies that support that we're seeing elevated levels of disease there and appropriately balance the portfolio for those investments. Maybe secondly, I'd talk a little bit about the med tech and the tools companies. This has really been a kind of a topical one because of the need to redeploy capital. These companies have generated exceptionally strong profits over the last 3 years, in large part due to their exposure to COVID testing, as well as bioprocessing required to make vaccines and such. Those companies have redeployed that capital, and they've put it into new research projects that maybe hadn't been funded before. They're putting it into capital expenditures as well as targeted acquisitions. And we think that sector holds great promise, certain names there, to see incremental profitability over the next 3 to 5 years as those investments reach fruition. Thirdly, maybe lastly, the healthcare services sector. We continue to have a very positive outlook for a subset of those names, the wholesalers, specifically the pharmaceutical distributors. We see very well positioned going forward, not just due to increased profits from potential inflation, but also increased demand, prescription demand akin to what we talked about in cardiovascular disease and CNS. Lastly, our exposure to the healthcare providers, pretty limited, but we do focus on the healthcare insurers as a reasonable place for upside long term. These companies made excess profits due to lower utilization during the pandemic, but going forward, we think they have good prospects as the population continues to age. For those companies that are exposed to things like Medicare programs, we see great promise for that on a go-forward basis.